Hi, and welcome to GalaxyCon Talks Comics with Mike and Patty. Good evening, Patty.
Good evening, Mike. How are you tonight?
I am swell, as the kids say. We're gonna jump right into this. We've got a big show tonight. It's gonna get really crowded in here, but it's really cool. We've got some gentlemen who are all a part of AWA Studios, which is the new comic company that has some pretty impressive stuff coming out.
Absolutely.
And, is headed by one of our guests. We'll start with Brent Schoonover. He's the artist of Devil's Highway for AWA Studios. You've seen his art in the pages of Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Batman 66, and the WWE comics. Let's bring Brent on. In that beautiful 100-degree Minneapolis weather.
We're making it work. We're surviving.
Boss, how are you today, boss?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as always, when we see art, we must ask about art. You got some interesting stuff immediately behind you. You've got a retro Superman thing. What's that?
That is from Metropolis, Illinois. A friend of mine who I went to school with ended up moving down there and working down there for a couple of years. And he knew I'd be something I'd dig, so I came back for Christmas one year, and he had it rolled up for me. And it's a really cool Metropolis, Illinois, safest streets in America poster. It's Ty Templeton did the artwork for it. They only made like 200 of them, so they're kind of rare. And he sent me 2 of them, so I think it's a cool poster. And so that, and then over on this side or up on that side is just a bunch of my kids' art right now. So they keep bringing them in. I have 2 daughters, one's 9 and one is 6, and they constantly bring in art and like, I made this for you. And
well, they are the best artists in the world.
They are. They're the great. They keep getting better. So,
what's the body one immediately over your shoulder there?
That is an old movie poster for a Boris Karloff movie called The Body Snatcher.
Oh, Body Snatcher. Yeah, okay, all right.
And
that's a good one.
Next to it is I do a lot of poster work for the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, and there's for Weezer and the Pixies show that came by. I did a poster for that, and that is signed by both bands. So pretty cool. So
I have the Pixies poster for when they came down here to Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, do you?
About a year and a half ago.
That's awesome. Yeah,
our buddy Dave did those posters.
Oh, really? That's cool. Very cool. So. And then it's just a cluttery mess of art and comics in the back besides that. So I wish I could say I spruced up, but I didn't.
Now, do you give them insight? Like, oh no, the focal point's all wrong. No, you got it in perspective. It's just like, what did Daddy tell you about anatomy?
My old son really got into like figure drawing and stuff like that, and drawing. So we started talking about perspective a little bit this recently, but it's that fine line of just encouraging them and not getting them. So they're in that stage where it's like, draw what makes you happy, and then we'll get into shading and perspective and all that here shortly. But for now, just keep them happy.
So speaking of talented artists, we'll bring on our next guest. Mike Deodato. He's the artist of The Resistance and Bad Mother for AWA. He's been one of the industry's top artists for the past 25 years on Avengers, Elektra, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor, Wonder Woman, New Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man, Thunderbolts, Savage Avengers, you name it. Now he's here at AWA, straight from Brazil. Let's bring on Mike.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. Hello, young man. How are you?
Doing good, thank you.
And we were talking to Mike about his art behind his desk earlier.
Yeah, we have Superman by Will Conrad. The art is on red border for AWA. And Berserker Unbound. I just published last year with Jeff Lemire. Beautiful.
Yeah. I'm going to bring on the Ben Percy. He's the writer of Year Zero, Devil's Highway for AWA, writer of Wolverine, X-Force for Marvel. He's worked with DC, Dynamite on Green Arrow, Teen Titans, Nightwing, James Bond, and the voice of an angel.
Hey, everybody.
Sir, how are you?
I'm great. It's 100 degrees here in Minnesota, so I'm sitting in a puddle of primordial ooze right now.
I was telling Brent earlier that a month ago it was like 36 degrees in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's my ideal temperature. I'm one of those sickos who loves the winter. Anything over 70 degrees in my heart melts.
Unreal.
As naturalized Floridians, yeah, it's like we're a big fan of anything from 40 to 70.
It's 100
we hardly
degrees
get. Yeah, plus humidity.
We live north of the wall. In Game of Thrones terms.
And I'm going to bring on our final guest for the evening. He is, last but not least, Axel Alonso is AWA's Chief Creative Officer. He's the guy who's putting this all together. He was editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics from 2011 to 2018, executive editor at Marvel from 2001 to 2011, and senior editor for DC's Vertigo from 94 to 2000. And he's one of the industry's most influential figures for the past 25 years, and he's now leading the creative charge behind the launch of AWA. So, Axel, straight from New York.
And I'm only 27, so.
Fascinating. Karen brought you into Vertigo when you were like 3.
Exactly.
She was like, I'm going to find the best kid in the preschool I can get. It was the little goth kid in the corner, I guess.
I never had a goth kid, for the record.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. My complexion's wrong for that. Too dark.
So Axel, AWA Studios. What can you tell us? It's you guys are brand new. You guys were just launching just as all this nonsense in the world started.
Yeah. We're a comic book company founded by Marvel executive Bill James and entertainment executive Jonathan Miller that are looking to be the next big thing in comic books. And we decided to launch right in the middle of a pandemic because it would be a lot of fun. It's a challenge. We decided, let's make a superhero universe that's born in a pandemic and then launch it during an actual pandemic for a publicity stunt. And it worked out. The good news is that we launched in March, but our sales have been wonderful. The response has been great. And we beat projections in all of our books, so we're very happy. Just last week, Devil's Highway by Brent and Ben sold out. And The Resistance was a phenomenal hit, cracking number 60 in the top 100 as a little indie book by Straczynski and Deodato.
Wow.
So we're here to have a lot of fun. We're telling brand new stories that span genres.
You guys, you are a small indie, but you have an amazing roster of talent. I mean, even just what's on screen with us right now. I mean, Mike has been, one of the industry's top artists for, the better part of, over 2 decades. Brent and Ben are certainly no slouches themselves in the industry. You got Straczynski, you've got, my buddy Jeff DeCal's doing, a bunch, covers for you guys. You have such a deep roster. Frank Cho's working with you. This is not your average everyday, indie.
Yeah.
It's not 5 friends working out of the basement.
Exactly. Our goal was to get the best people, both the superstars like Straczynski and Garth Ennis, and the people that we saw as being future superstars. Like I worked with Ben back at Marvel on the Wolverine podcast. Had an amazing experience. He was one of the first people I called when I started at WA. Devil's Highway was one of the first projects I put together and acquired. Because I have an eye now. Having discovered a lot of people from Brian Israel to Jason Aaron, I just feel like, for me, it's about finding next talent, next big thing, the people that have a distinct voice, getting them when they're young. So, yeah.
Just like Karen did with you at Vertigo.
Exactly.
You've certainly done that. You have a very deep roster of impressive talent. And you've been working a while on this, on getting this stuff together. It didn't just come together in the last 6 months. You guys have been working on this project for over a year.
About almost 2 years. We were founded about 2 years ago and started working right away in stealth mode. And I've been moving along. At some point, I read on Twitter that Mike Deodato was considering doing more creator-owned. So I immediately called him. said, "Hey, Mike, guess what? Guess what I'm doing? Talk to me. We spoke about some things, and then at one point I sent him the script for Bad Mother, thinking I'm crazy. How would the artist of Avengers and Wolverine and Hulk draw a book about a suburban soccer mom? But I thought, you know what? I think he'll see the story. I sent it to him. He read it. He said, "Oh my God, I love it. It's the greatest crime story. I've got to do this." And my heart melted. And the work he's doing in this book is just career work. It's amazing.
It was fun because I knew, I know Bill Gemis, who's, with you guys, and I knew that you guys were putting this together, and I knew some of the talent that was involved. And it was funny watching, some of the websites, hypothesizing, this person going over there. Oh, they've got this person. Oh, they're doing something. And it was like rumbling around for a while. And you guys were building a bigger, a better boat, and you took your time and you assembled the talent. You didn't rush it out.
We took our time. I spoke with the right people. Early on, Ben was one of the first writers I spoke with. Out of that, we got Devil's Highway and Year Zero, two of my favorite books. Right out the gate.
So tell us about those books.
We already had the pitches down and we're nailing them.
All right. So Devil's Highway, Brent and Ben are working on that book. So, tell us about that book, Brent.
Devil's Highway is the story of Sharon Harrow, and she is a troubled woman with a haunted past who comes home one Christmas to discover that her father has been murdered. And as she begins to pursue the case, she's led into the underworld of trucking and begins to understand that this one case is part of a larger pattern. So Brent and I, every year before Comic-Con in Minneapolis, we usually have a big breakfast at this place called Keys Cafe.
Yep.
And so we sat down for breakfast prior to heading off to the con and started breaking bread and talking ideas. And, I'd been inspired to look into trucking for some time. And I'm not just talking about my love of over the top. I'm also talking about some investigation I've done into Smiley Face Killer.
Is it your love of Every Which Way But Loose?
We need to put in the second season of
yeah, we do.
You do not want to be on our text chain as Ben does research for this book.
Yeah, really.
These news stories about horrible things going on around the world.
He just sent me one the other day. He was like hanging out at a barbecue, and it was like, "Oh God, this is horrible." And he's like, "It was directly from him." And I'm like, "Yep, we'll have to plot that one in."
And on average, how many of those begin with the word Florida man?
Almost every one of them.
Yes, we're number one. We're number one.
Look, you're both in Minneapolis. You guys are giving us a run for the money right now.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Yeah.
So I assume that you guys knew each other before working on this project, both being from Minneapolis.
Yeah, we're buddies. So it's been great to collaborate together.
Yeah, we were met at a convention. We were just set up next to each other. Ben was working on DC stuff, and I was doing some Marvel stuff, and that was just kind of I was a big fan of his, and so it was just kind of a natural thing. And that's when we were like, hey, let's start, getting together for a beer or two. And we did. We met up a couple times when he came to the cities. He's a little farther out of the city, so he'd come in for a signing or something like that. And after the signing, we'd go have a beer, and we just, we kind of had a lot of interest. And I enjoyed doing my time on superhero books, but like I've always been more interested in like the crime, the powers, fatale, and everything like that. That's like stuff like that is where I've always kind of wanted to try doing something like that. And I think Ben was itching to do something a little, darker and stuff besides Green Arrow and Teen Titans and stuff like that too. So it was a perfect opportunity to team up.
So Axel, so with AWA, you've got a bit of a mix. You've got creator-owned stuff going on. You've got company-owned stuff going on. You have a shared universe in there.
Yeah.
Right. So
we have books that are creator-owned and we have shared universe books, the difference is that it's not straight work for hire. People that do books that are part of the shared universe have equity in the characters they create. They're not just straight work for hire. They have a stake in what they create. So if something big, if that character goes on to become part of something bigger, they get a cut. You understand? So they have a piece of it. They're not just waiting and hoping that someone will be nice to them when the movie comes out. You know?
Right.
It's there in writing. It's there in writing. So people that work in the shared universe, but they also get the benefits of shared universe, which means that you're not on your own. If you create a character, that character gets elevated by other characters in other books. You get to be a part of a universe that Straczynski and Ennis and Ben Percy and other people have created. So, you know, it's an opportunity to be a part of a team. When I was at Vertigo, I kept wondering, imagine if you're reading Preacher, and one day J.C. Custer's at a bar. You look down the bar, and there's Spider Jerusalem of Transmit. People would freak out.
And Constantine on the other side.
Exactly. So we've got the latitude to do that now with what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're creating a universe. Many books you'll know right away. They're part of the shared universe right away. Other books will sneak up on you. It won't be immediately apparent. It will come apparent down the road with clues. And some of them are not at all. Like Devil's Highway is not a part of the shared universe. That's in its own world. It exists in its own ecosystem.
So, all right. So what about Year Zero?
Well, Year Zero is an interesting thing because Year Zero is one where I can't imagine a world in which we would not send Bad Mother to Year Zero or Shannon Harrow to Year Zero. I can't imagine we won't want to do that. You understand? I do already. I'd love to see how the Resistance fares in Year Zero. Why not? There's nothing saying we can't do that. Five girls go to Year Zero, you know, kick some Year Zero ass, but zombie ass, you know, it'd be a lot of fun.
I have to give credit to Year Zero. I really had thought, oh, zombies, okay, all right, maybe they've got a new angle, but mea culpa, you found a really good angle. I really enjoy the perspective of just the person involved and the snippets of the infected, and I really appreciate the very, very, very slow burn. I'm a big fan of slow burn. I'm a big fan of letting things build up, and I fell in love with the term Garage Mahal. That you had my you had my interest, and now that series has my attention.
We had a lot of fun putting that together, and quite frankly, I was counting on that kind of reaction. People go, "Oh, yawn, zombies." I'm a zombaholic. I'll never get tired of zombies. They're not the story. They're just the complication.
Yes. And
what we did when we talked about this book in the beginning, it clicked immediately with me and Ben about how to do it. We're like, let's not show a fucking zombie in the first issue. Mm-mm. Let's not do it. Down. No zombies on the cover. You know, just let it sneak up on people. And then Ben came up with the 5 characters and their world. We talked about, we want this to be a book about how do you respond to the world ending when you're a Catholic boy in Mexico, an atheist in Minnesota, a Buddhist in Japan, a Muslim in Afghanistan. What do you say to God, your God, when he's fucked you like this? You know, what do you say? How do you react? Well, it's a very deep book. And Ramon Rosales is an amazing artist.
I think we're all asking. I think a lot of people are asking that question in the last few months themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so it's resonant.
And the design of the book too is interesting in that, you know, if you think about these times as fractured, the aesthetic of the story is representative of that. You have a fractured narrative, right? The world is splintered, and so you have all of these different stories that are exploring different responses to the world ending and beginning at once.
Yeah, I agree. It's you found a very good balance too. Whenever I've seen that type of storytelling before, the balance always seems a little off. They focus too much maybe on one character, or they fall in love with a plot. But again, the pacing is very equal, and again, it pulls you in and it keeps you there. It's kept me there the whole time since I discovered it a while ago. So again,
DC comics are impatient, right? And that's the nature of the market. You want people to come back in a month. That's a long time to wait. You wouldn't wait for your favorite show, if it was a month apart. So Big Two Comics tend to like cram everything in,
Yes.
And to not, as much as I love them, they don't have a lot of room for the slow burn. I mean, but I really, I would rather the pot simmer before it boils, and that's what we're doing in actually Devil's Highway and Year Zero.
And you're working with, on Year Zero, you're working with a talented artist, Ramon Berzanas, and it really works with the story.
Yeah, he's such a precise artist, and he took that technical approach to every environment that he's trying to represent. So you can trust Ramon to do an incredible amount of research into Tokyo, into Mexico City, into Kabul. He tries, not just to capture what the environment looks like, but also the custom.
Yeah. The major factor in deciding to approach him to do this was the fact that he creates real environments. He doesn't skimp on backgrounds. You know where you are in the story. That's something Mike Deodato does as well. You know where you are. You always know where you are. You always know you've left one environment for another. If it's humid, you feel humid. If it's freezing, you're freezing. So we wanted that to close character work.
I was in love with first issue of Year Zero. The page that caught my attention was the one with 10 panels from top to top. It's so hard to make it work, and he did it beautifully. His narrative is amazing. He's an incredible storyteller. I became a fan after issue 1.
Very much so. Very much so. What's back on Devil's? Back on. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say. So, Mike, you your book, The Resistance, is out. And speaking of incredible artists, it's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Thank you.
And it's how did this come about?
Well, after I was supposed to do first Bad Mother, but then Axel, hey, wanna do this first? And then I'm so let me see. Wow! So when I saw it was Straczynski, then okay, let me do it, and it's fantastic. I remember reading one of the scenes of first issue, the one with the father and the mother in the hospital with the daughter, and I almost cried just reading for my wife. He puts a lot of emotion in every scene, and it's fantastic. So I'm very excited. I already finished all the issues, but it was great work with in this book.
And you worked with Straczynski before on Spider-Man.
Yeah, in Dream Police too.
Yeah.
So you clearly, you guys are a good team.
I never spoke directly with Straczynski except for one or two emails. So, but it was not necessary. The script it's all there. I just have to follow what he's saying, and it works.
Oh, if you didn't like what you were doing, you'd hear about it.
I wanted the book to be big. I had already gotten Mike to commit to Bad Mother when it hit me in the middle of the night. You know what? Mike is so quick. Maybe I should see if he wants to do The Resistance first. So I called him. I sent him the script. He loved it. And if you're going to launch a first issue, whether it's Wolverine or Batman or Resistance, one of the first people you want on your team is Mike Deodato. To make noise, to get noticed, and to give the story scope. I mean, even the first page, when the first page came in that shows the Earth, just Earth from outer space, it looked better than I ever could have visualized in my brain. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a big hit. We've had a wonderful response to the book. And it's the most important book we published because it is the origin story for our shared universe. This is where it all begins. Everything begins there.
Right.
So the origin of our universe happens here in this book. So anything that grows out into the shared universe starts in this book and refers back to this book and the mythology that's going to be outlined over time. Just so you know, Straczynski's already written a sequel. Not sequel. The volume 2 is already written the first 3 issues of volume 2. As Ben Percy has already written the second volume for Year Zero. So we're already underway. People ask, why are you monthly? Are you monthlies? No, we're not monthlies. We're regularly shipping series. And we will always ship on time. We'll always have one artist. Because we won't solicit until we're ready. And we know it's going to come out on time. You understand? So that's the goal. The goal is that. So we have another artist, not yet announced, working on volume 2 of Year Zero. And a different artist working on Resistance volume 2. They're both working. They're not announced yet, but they're underway. They're rolling. And we'll announce them when we've got enough in the can that we know we're going to ship on time.
Natalie has a question. She wants to know if there's going to be some, if you're going to collect everything in collector trades in the future of everything.
Yes. Our first 5 trades come out in October. The Resistance Volume 1 is in the first round. Hotel Volume 1. Red Border Volume 1. Archangel 8 Volume 1. And what's the last one? I think Year Zero is in the first batch, right? Year Zero is in the first batch as well. So 5 trades are coming out in October. And then a few months later, the next round of trades come out.
So you guys launched. So you guys launched. You spent some time going to shows. You went out there. You gave away this book, Upshot Now, which was a nice black and white kind of a trade collection of a bunch of bits of the stories. Went out, did all the legwork, and then launched right in the beginning of the pandemic.
It was Bill's idea to do Upshot Now. One of the things, if you recall, when Bill was president at Marvel, one of the things he did was he took Marvel out of the previews catalog, and he created Marvel's own catalog. Mm-hmm. So we could showcase our books at the time in full color as much as we wanted. So we thought, why don't we do it here? We're a little upstart publisher. We've got, when people see the art by Deodato and Show and Schoonover, and they see the top lineup, they're going to know we're for real. So let's go out there. Let's let retailers see the books in advance. They can read it. They can see how good it is. They can make informed decisions about how they order. If you read the Resistance #1 in black and white and you like it, you can take a leap of faith that maybe I can move this item on my shelf.
I think it was a great idea. I mean, it's, as you know, I've been a retailer before. Patty and I both have worked in comic stores in our lives and managed them, and it's really hard for a retailer to know what's coming out. What are you going to take a shot with, especially when the racks are flooded with product. Flooded, and so you're trying to figure out how I'm gonna support a new thing, but to see it, to go, okay, this gives me a good idea.
Moving forward, we're going to make available to retailers full color previews as a PDF of all of the books. So if you want to read Fight Girls #1 or Fight Girls #2 or Year Zero #1, Year Zero Volume 2 #1, you can have a full color lettered preview in advance to read, to have a hunt, to get a sense as to how good it is. So we want you guys not to be ordering blind, because look, I was editor-in-chief at Marvel. I know you got to pick between Year Zero and Deadpool sometimes. Am I going to order more Deadpool or Year Zero?
Well, maybe not even Deadpool, but you're gonna choose between Year Zero and Hawkeye Freefall, like one of the lower selling titles.
Yeah.
And that's where you're gonna make your decision. What do I do? Do I take a couple of do I take a risk on a book? And that's what you're really good.
We want to build confidence with retailers that what we're doing is a cut above, that the talent is a cut above, that the books tell a story you want to read, that they're not esoteric or avant-garde. They're commercial with a twist. You follow me?
John,
when I was at Vertigo, my goal was to make indie books that felt like blockbuster movies. Indie books that felt like a crime thriller or spaghetti western, or horror book or espionage. At Marvel, it's like, let's do superhero comic books that have an indie feel. Ecstatics by Milligan and Allred. Banner by Azrael and Corbin. You get the gist? Let's look at these characters from a different angle. So what we're doing now is we have no rules. Just great talent that have got, they've got freedom. And our business philosophy is that we want to make sure that people can bet on themselves doing an original story without having to put it on the line. If you're going to do creator-owned, you're going to get paid doing the creator-owned. You're getting paid is not contingent upon how well you sell. We'll take that risk for you. We'll take the risk for you. We'll back you because we believe in the story, because we believe in our instincts to tell a good story. I believe that Devil's Highway, when it's a trade, is going to be a perennial bestseller. Because when you read a comic book, you only get the first chapter. You won't know how good Devil's Highway is until you finished it. Ditto for Year Zero. When it's a trade, that Year Zero, I have every confidence Year Zero will go into how many printings, let alone The Resistance, which is the most commercial book we're putting out. You know, I have every confidence that we're going to, create trades that like the Preacher trades or the 100 Bullets trades, or when Bill was at Marvel, he instituted the Marvel trades. There was no trade program, which we call.
Well, you and Bill, this is an interesting mix, right? Like you and Bill are two very unique individuals, and the idea of the two of you being together. I mean, you were in Vertigo at the time of the great creativity, the height of Vertigo. I mean, you come in 94 in Vertigo, that's 94, 95. That's when Vertigo's firing on all cylinders. You've got, creator-owned stuff. You're used to working with creators. You guys were the first to really writing for the trade. Back then, I remember those early collections.
It's all about that. My love is I love creator-owned. Most of the books I read as a civilian are creator-owned. I'm more interested in new stories featuring new stuff, new ideas, new characters. And I love the idea that all of us go to work looking at a blank canvas. There's no rules. The only rules are the ones we put on ourselves.
Right, and Bill is very well known for having no rules. And Bill can be a controversial figure. And I say this as a friend of Bill's, and I love Bill. Bill makes decisions that sometimes are some of the wildest, craziest things. He'll throw ideas at a wall, but he's doing it because he wants to break the rule book. He wants to try things that may not have been tried or had been tried before that.
I work with Bill, brother, so I know what you're talking about. When I was at Marvel, Bill fired me twice. And hired me the next morning. Yeah, no joke. Twice he fired me. One time I left saying, fuck you, I don't ever want to work here. This is the fuck up. Yeah. Next morning I'm back. So yeah. He's afraid of controversy. No, he's not afraid of controversy at all.
No, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you're launching a new thing. And Bill had tried launching something before with Double Take, the Take Two stuff. And the difference between then and now is when he did that, he didn't have the talent. He didn't have a strong editorial leader, such as yourself, to really, push the creative side, and who had all the context. I mean, just look at the three guys that are on screen with us. You worked with all these guys at Marvel. You've worked with, everybody, for the last 20 something years. And everyone. You have these connections. So this is pretty interesting.
Thank you. I like our odds. I like our odds. I'm very proud of all the books that we've done so far. Very proud. All the books I've done so far are books I would give to friends to read, because they're accessible and they're different and they span genres. So yeah.
There's an energy to your brand that you're building that I haven't felt since the heyday of First Comics in the mid '80s.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Which was there was a deal that they just like this. There were guys that were doing solid work in the superhero genres for the big two, and they had an opportunity to go off and do their own things. And it wasn't just, hey, my own superhero knockoff is the two. They were all doing shaking on American flag. Like Grell on doing John Sable, and it's. You're really curating. I feel like all the creators are really doing something that they know they could not do at the big two.
Well, the distinction is curating, and also many of the books I did in the beginning, I had to do in stealth mode. And there were major moments like when I got Straczynski involved, or when Deodato did that Twitter about creator owned, and I leapt on the opportunity. There were big moments. There were big moments as well when I got Percy interested in Year Zero, and when I read Devil's Highway and said, I'm in. Maybe it played a role in him writing Wolverine, even. Who knows? Again, the thing is that it's important to curate and to have a vibe to your line.
So John Christopher wants to know if Resistance Reborns will be in the trade, the web stuff.
Resistance Reborns will be collected at some point. It's not likely it will be in the first trade. It's better fit with the second trade. Yeah, because many of the characters you see in the Reborns will show up in the second volume. And in fact, many of the characters that are introduced in the first issue of Resistance will be seen again. So keep an eye on that issue as a collector's item.
Cool. So, Brent.
Yeah.
Other than the book you're working on, what's your favorite book that AWA is putting out?
Old Haunts. Is that right?
Yeah, Old Haunts.
Yeah, Old Haunts. I read that one. Rob and I worked on Suicide Squad together for a little bit towards the end of his run. And that book, I just read it, and it was like everything I wanted. It was crime, ghosts. It's a really slick package. It's beautifully done. It was the first actually full complete AWA book I read, and I was like, shit, we gotta really if this is the benchmark, like this is gonna be great. And so and then I read Resistance, and I've loved them all so far. Michael Morency's Archangel 8 is great. I've been friends with him for a long time, and the same with harping back to Year Zero, like you said. When I heard a zombie book, I was like, well, I'm going to give it a try because obviously Ben's writing it, and I think he'll have a unique take on a zombie book. But I didn't know how good that book was going to be. I love the first issue, and I just read the second issue on vacation, and it's awesome. So yeah, almost everything I've read has just been fantastic. But Old Haunts, when I first read it, I was like, these guys aren't messing around. They're going to make really good books. And I think it's kind of been said before, but to me, all of it feels like the Vertigo books that I was reading when I was younger. And I feel like that has definitely been a hole missing in comics right now. I definitely feel like there's a want and need for some of these more mature content books and stuff like that at a high quality. And I think they're hitting it really good.
Yeah, it's a crying shame. I mean, after you left Vertigo, Axel, I guess Warner's didn't want to do the creator on stuff anymore. They kind of walked back on some of the great stuff. But I mean, that stuff is, some of the highlights of creativity in this industry. The Preacher, Goddess, all those books that were coming out at the time.
A lot of the talented Vertigo ended up migrating to Marvel as well. Guys like Garth Ennis and Peter Milligan and people like that ended up migrating to Marvel during that early days of New Marvel. When the hustle takeover, when the stock price was $1.53 and everyone thought we were going to go away.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Mike, what is your favorite book to look at that AWA is putting out? Is it Will's book, Red Border?
Well, it's actually Year Zero. I love it, the first issue. And second one would be Grendel, because I did the over, so I had the chance to read the whole issue. These are the only ones I read so far. Sorry, I'm so busy.
Hey, Mike, we're gonna fix that. Okay, we're gonna get you a bunch of books as a PDF. All right.
Okay, but so I had the chance to read Grendel, and the art in the story is so great, and I actually felt a little embarrassed about my drawings after I saw Tommy Edwards.
Tommy Lee Edwards, yeah.
So great, so natural. The colors, oh my God. So, but Year Zero was also fantastic.
That's Grendel, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Grendel,
but that's not out yet,
There's
right?
a story in the Hollywood Reporter today about it as well. There's a story on Grendel, Kentucky in the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah. That book looks gorgeous from what I've seen of it.
He's amazing, because McCompsey had pitched that I was doing Grendel in the hills of Kentucky, and I loved it. We talked about it. We were beating it up, working and plotting it out. When I got this idea, I hung out with Tommy Lee, and I'm like, oh my God, I'll bet that Tommy Lee would like this. So I reached out, and the moment he got on board, it's like he came in and poured Jack Daniels all over it, Became a completely different book. Yeah, it changed. It became total grindhouse. And he influenced the story in a major way. Cool. But it's a pot boiler. I mean, it's a grindhouse thriller about our Beowulf is a biker chick. She and her biker gang have to come back to the town she grew up in to avenge the death of her dad, who was found ripped to pieces outside of an abandoned mine. She has to go back to confront the monster from her past. So it's a wonderful story, and it's an update of Grendel as a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Beowulf threw a bottle of Jack. I liked it.
Exactly.
Ben, what about you?
I mean, I'd echo some of the titles that have already been mentioned, like Old Haunts and The Resistance. And I want to read Grendel, Kentucky, because it's one of those premises that makes me jealous to hear about. The updated version of Beowulf. But the one that hasn't been mentioned that I've enjoyed quite a lot is Hotel, which is just a very upsetting horror title set in a that's a closed set scenario, all taking place in this hotel. So if you're in the mood to put some poison in your eye, check that one out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an instance too where I had my eye toward finding new talent. I saw a little book called Sync by John Lees. I thought it was wonderful, flawed but wonderful. I called him up, we spoke, we hit it off, and then essentially he pitched me a few things. He was an idea factory. He pitched me something. There was a baby in the bathwater. We spoke about it, and that became Hotel. And it's an anthology story. It's like Black Mirror. It's an anthology story, interlinked stories, all told in once, interlinked that there's one hotel. It's a hotel you go to make your last stand with the demons that haunt you. You go there, you fight the demon that's haunting you, and either you win and you check out, or you don't. And they're all very different stories.
And
each one is self-contained, but they all interlink.
And it's an intense book.
Yeah.
It's gory.
I enjoyed the first issue a lot.
It's gory, thanks, yeah. That's an instance where I wasn't going with superstar talent, but I was going with talent that are emerging, that I have every confidence are going to be amazing down the road.
I think so far you've been at the editorial game for so long, and yeah, I think you've definitely got the eye, and it definitely proves here with what you're accomplishing. So hats off to you.
So Ben,
Yeah.
if this stuff doesn't work out, radio?
You think my voice is deep now? You should have heard me before I got a vasectomy.
So Ben,
Ben, Dulce, my associate editor, called you today and spoke with you, and she texted me afterwards. She said, "Oh my God, Ben's voice."
So Ben, Devil's Highway, you're going into the underground side of the trucking industry. This is correct?
Right.
Yeah, which I've been aware for a long time. There's a lot of nasty crap in that subculture and everything else too, but a lot of people don't. We still have a romanticized version of truckers going back from Smokey and the Bandit, BJ and the Bear, and all that other stuff. But looks like you're really gonna like pry open the can a little bit in this series.
Yeah, the FBI says that if there was an ideal profession for a serial killer, it would be long haul trucking. Because of their anonymity, because of their transport across state lines, because of their exposure to vulnerable populations. And they currently believe that about a dozen serial killers are operating as semi-drivers right now in this country. And they are an invisible culture that's all around us. They're hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that's been represented often in any form of storytelling. And it's been a lot of fun, growling along these dark highways with Brent. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, we were talking about form before, how Year Zero, for instance, has sort of a fractured form. One of the things that Brent brought to the table right away was his desire to make the story contained within a grid. And I was wondering if you wanted to talk about that and, the style he brought to it.
It's kind of was just looking for a challenge for myself to, it was like we could do this open panels and, be flashy with it and stuff like that. But I kind of felt like the story needed something a little different. And so I proposed this grid system. It's like a 9-panel grid, but you can kind of break that out. You can do one panel. It's 3 tiers, but you can kind of maneuver it. And when you put all the pages together and stay true to this grid, it's kind of fun to look because it almost looks like a map, like a highway map. And
it's also noting that Devil's Highway, the first series 1 through 5, is a contained series, but I really do view it as season 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
It tells a full story a full adventure, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
There's resolution to the foreground story, but there's also questions raised, complications raised toward the end of the story that means that there's still shit to be dealt with. And there's still stuff out there to be dealt with. And the implication is that Shannon's job is not done yet. You understand? Mm-hmm. Or let's put it this way. Someone might not be done with Shannon yet. But by the time she's done with what she does.
Yeah.
So the goal here is that people will enjoy Devil's Highway enough, will do a collection and come back with a second season. You know? This is true of many of the books we're doing. Archangel 8 is the same thing. Archangel 8 tells a fully contained story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But it's meant to be season 1. There's plenty more stories to be told after that story is done, featuring that character and the people you meet along the way.
Yeah, I'd love to keep drawing this character. I think we could do a lot of fun with things with her, and me and Ben have had ideas for future things and characters to be introduced, and we're hoping that people take this ride and want to keep going with us because we're having a lot of fun doing it.
I like the fact that she backs up everything that she's done that I've seen so far, in the sense that, okay, we've seen tough girls as it is, but she walks in, and again, you've given her you've conveyed gravitas to her. She's coming into town, to seeing the standoff at the police station, and hey, remember who did this to you at high school? Okay, yeah, sure, I remember the time, she's intriguing, and I'm interested to see you guys flesh her out in future opportunities.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a story that every single issue has kind of a neck-breaking reversal in it. So you think the story's going one way, and then we take a hard left turn. And it's Axel was saying earlier, I'd give this to my friends. It depends on what friends. you don't want to give it to like your elderly neighbor or your nephew or something like that. Like the story, we were able to push the limits of sort of what things we wouldn't be allowed to do in the big two. This is very much like a gritty HBO series, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, I've had to do a lot of social media response to friends from my hometown are like, oh my goodness, my kid really loved your Ant-Man run. I can't wait to show him this. And I'm like, no. Not
right. It's a very different kind of book for you, Brent. I mean, Ant-Man, the wrestling stuff, Batman, the Batman 66 stuff. This is, a very different, type of a story for.
Yeah, it's one I've been itching to do for a long time. I mean, I think you kind of have your bucket list things you want to do, in comics, and I've been lucky to do a lot of them, but I've always been looking for someone.
You shifted your style too, if you recall, dating back to the day when the first pages came in. We spoke at a long, hard talk.
We did.
Shifting his style because you were still drawing on your old style.
Yep.
But what happened is it clicked.
Yeah.
You stripped it down. You shifted the gear, and everything clicked.
Yeah.
It went from here to there.
Yeah.
Like that. And then Nick came in with his colors. And just give it texture and depth.
Yeah. And Nick,
the thing that Brent and I talked about was, we said trucking hasn't really been represented often in storytelling, and the same goes for all the characters in our story. Like, these are working class characters, every one of them. There's no billionaire playboys in this. Mm-hmm. These are ordinary people living ordinary lives, and something extraordinary, intrudes upon them. And the setting, the backdrop is the North, Wisconsin and Minnesota and parts of Iowa and Illinois during the winter. So the setting itself, underrepresented in film and television and novels and comics, it comes to life as a character of its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the diner in the beginning with its legendary tater tots. Yeah. That's authentic.
I just had someone on Twitter ask me where they could get those legendary tater tots, and I was like, I don't know. Like, there's like 30 places on the highway. I go back down to my parents. They all have the best tater tots. I'm like, just pick one. just go on the road and you'll find one. So, yeah.
So, Mike, tater tots are potatoes shredded in little cube form. Just in case you didn't know.
Hey, listen,
They probably
don't
have
piss
better
Mike
path
off.
to Brazil.
Don't piss
Yeah,
Mike off.
they probably call him something else.
It would take Mike all of 5 seconds to kill me in a fight. I'm bigger than him.
So Brent, I think apparently it was Natalie that tweeted at you.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes.
She just outed herself.
Oh, nice. Well, I did send her a recipe. I'm like, here you go.
Good.
So,
so how did all you guys meet Axel for the first time? When did they come into your life, Axel?
Me, it was actually I was already at Marvel, and then Axel came in, and I was coming back to Marvel because at the end of the 90s, nobody wanted to work with me again because I was doing a terrible job, and then I was recovering my place at Marvel step by step. I had done a story for Witches, which my other boss, Bill Jimas, put it away. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. It's so bad. And then I did 4 issues of Tigra, and then finally Axel, hey, do we want to do a Hulk with me? And then, oh, of course. And that was it. I have been working with Axel for since 2000. And
yeah, like we both had afros at the time. It was amazing.
We don't socialize. I think I only met Axel twice in my life, but I feel like he's one of my best friends in business and out of business. So I trust.
I looked at Mike's work and I was thinking, why the hell isn't this guy drawing the Avengers and Wolverine?
Right.
But I wasn't editing Avengers and Wolverine, but I was editing Hulk. So I called him up, and then we talked about a number of things, including Richard Corbin, I recall. And then that's when you start to lay down the deep blacks. And it was amazing. The pages came to life with these deep, rich blacks.
Mm-hmm.
His run on Hulk was amazing. I still remember the page when Bruce Banner's walking with the big pants.
Yeah.
And then, because if you're Bruce Banner, you can turn into Hulk, you better wear pants that are oversized, or they're going to rip off. He's walking in big pants, and then he turns into the Hulk, and they fit him. But he drew him. It was amazing. It was funny, hilarious, and pathos.
I didn't get the joke back then, and I was fighting Axel. Why he's walking like a clown here? I wanted to, and then, no, that's exactly the thing. We want the. And okay, I'll trust you. Now I understand. But back then, I just wanted to draw big stuff.
Well, the last time I worked with Mike was on Old Man Logan. For a while, you came over and did an amazing run on Old Man Logan.
Yeah, I love it.
An opening scene in a diner. In the diner was amazing. That's the last book I directly edited with you. There's an amazing scene in a diner where Logan goes in and realizes something's up, something's wrong. He sees clues in the room that something's wrong, and he's right. And Mike, the way he laid out the page, it was amazing work. That was in my brain when I called him for Resistance and Bad Mother. I thought, if you can do that subtle. Ben and I met when we were talking about doing a podcast for Wolverine, and we had a lot of candidates, a lot of people, and Ben's pitches were just so far and above better than anyone else's. It was amazing. And he pitched the idea of doing a story of Logan in Alaska, and I, at one point when I was younger, was an Alaskan fisherman, so I know that world very well. So the thing is, when I read it, I'm saying, "Oh my God, I'd love to see him in that world."
Did you do one of those? Did you do one of those Alaskan fishing boat things for a few months to make the money?
Yeah. I was one of the few people that actually got work. Most people don't get work; they come back broke. But I got work because I had a really long beard. I like that. So yeah. but Ben wrote that podcast, and it was amazing.
I have to say that was a career changer for me. Doing that podcast, it's since been listened to by millions of people. It's gotten me all sorts of other work, and I wouldn't be writing Wolverine, the mainline series, if not for that. So.
And no joke, at that point I was saying, this guy should be writing Wolverine. But they didn't hire him to write Wolverine until I was gone.
But now,
Exactly. They said, finally Axel's gone. Hire Ben.
He should be doing the Wolverine's voice.
Well, iHeartRadio certainly agreed. You got podcast of the year that year, didn't you?
yeah, I won for best scripted podcast. So
Very cool.
I'm still going strong in that podcast universe. More to come.
Yeah, that's another new breakthrough. The bringing back the radio play style formats, and
Right now, you can't shoot movies, but you can record podcasts.
Podcast and animation. That's what you got right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of things. We're lucky. We can keep doing our jobs. We can work remote and get things done.
And comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit harder. It's a bit inconvenient, but again.
Well, there's also, digital.
Yeah.
You guys are working very hard on your digital presence as well. I mean, you're putting up stories online in chapters.
Yeah, we had to get them out there because we launched into a pandemic and we're like, hey, we want people to know we're here. Let's show it to people for free. The good news is it didn't hurt our sales because all of our books came in over budget. So we're very happy with the return. We're off to a very good start. Our investors are very happy with the progress we've made, and our trades haven't come out. When our trades come out in October, that's going to be a game changer for us as well. So.
And
I
Brent,
haven't seen books like Fight Girls and Bad Mother yet. So
Yeah.
Brent, how do you guys connect?
I'd worked with Marvel for a while, but me and Axel had never really conversed in my time when I was there. And then it wasn't really until me and Ben started pitching Devil's Highway. And so I think Axel was familiar with me, but I don't think we did have a relationship. And then he took me out to a steak dinner last October, and it was the best steak dinner I ever had. So I was like, not too shabby. So it was awesome. So, but it's been great getting to know him. I still tell this story to a lot of my friends. I was like, shortly after Devil's Highway, we started it. Axel just called me out of the blue, and it was like a hype man. He just gave me this amazing hype speech about the book and how he wants this to be the book people know me about. And he just hung up, and my wife came in my studio and was like, what was that all about? And I was like, I don't even know, but I feel like $1 million, and I'm ready to do the book. And so he's been my favorite editor and stuff that I've worked with since. He's not easy. He's not hard, but he pushes you. He wants the best book. And I think we got out the best we got out of the first book because of him. And so I'm excited to work with him again. And so
I'm a bit of an asshole, but I mean well.
No, I like that. I like the passion to come out. Sometimes with books, if they become so intense about just getting it out on time, that the only thing the editor's really asking you is where you're at, and you're not really talking about.
The thing was, when the first art came in, I was like, Brent, you can do better.
Yeah.
You can do better.
We can do it.
He was getting mad at me. He said, I know I can. I said, you got to shift gear. You're still in the mode of drawing a Marvel comic book. You can't be. And he shifted a gear, and the work just took off.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, Axel, you are an editor who actually edits, which I've heard from, especially again from the big two. I have heard that's a bit of a lost thing, where in the old days, editors and talent were very hands-on and have a good rapport and go back and forth. Yeah. And now I just hear, like you said, oh, is it ready? It's okay. Hey, let's talk about the plot. Oh, I hired you. Just go ahead and do it. My job's done, But it seems like you are very hands-on.
I grew up worshiping Archie Goodwin, who didn't do it like that.
Sure, one of the great editors, one of the greatest editors of all time.
As Mike Zeck told me about him once, he said, no finer writer, no finer editor, no finer man.
Yep, he was an amazing guy. Amazing guy.
So, 18 years at Marvel. It's got to, it's you had to shift gears. Just like you talked to Brent about shifting gears with his art, you had to shift gears. Going from that Marvel, 18 years at Marvel. That's a long time to be doing a thing, and then to come right off of Marvel and jump into this. I'm sure you had to shift perspective as well.
Yeah. What's good about this job for me is that it combines the best aspects of working for Vertigo and Marvel, because I get to do creator-owned. I get to do books that are all new and all original. I'm not just a caretaker of other people's characters. You know, we're creating stuff from scratch. We've all got a stake in it, and I mean an emotional stake as much as a financial. We've got an emotional stake in what we create, but the thing is that also, like at Marvel, the good thing about Marvel is you created a community of people that work together as a team. You're not just off in your silo working with your team, with your writer and artist all alone. You have the benefit of other people. I can take a script and show it to Garth Ennis and say, dude, tell me, I think there's a problem with this. Let me know your thoughts. You know, that kind of thing. I can go to Ben Percy. Can you read this? I'm not sure he's nailed this character. And people do it because we're part of a team. We're not competing against one another. We're building a line and building a universe.
Yeah.
I've loved the way that the creators are excited to see the people doing old haunts, celebrating Devil's Highway.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Deodato retweets everything we do. Bigger cheerleader for our company and what we're doing, you know, for imprint, for a publisher.
Well, and it's got to feel good that, you know, guys of this caliber of talent are taking the leap with you.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it's you know, like you know, it's like you said earlier. This still is an indie. There's no guarantees that, you know.
Well, the book that Garth Ennis is writing for us has written for us already. That we did a quick sneak preview of. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, is the most amazing thing he's written since Punisher Max. It's amazing. It is twisted. It is commercial. It's fun. And we haven't announced the artist yet or any details, but we will soon.
When are you looking to put this out?
It's still being drawn, and it's a longer arc. So probably announce it in about. I'd say we'll probably announce when we're going to do it in about 3 to 4 months. Is my goal. So, but as I said, don't want to announce until we know we're going to ship on time, because I do not want retailers to order. Like with Frank Cho, I want people to know when we ship Frank Cho's Fight Girls #1, guess what? Issue 2, 3, 4, and 5 are drawn. It's done. There's not going to be a gap because it's done. You follow me? So that's the goal with everything, because not everyone's Mike Deodato, who draws everything on time in advance. You know.
Well, Mike and I are from the generation of retailers during the image boom of trying to order issue 7 of something, and and issue 1 hasn't even come out yet, and issue 7 never came out yet. So,
issue 7? You mean issue 2?
Issue 2, yeah. No, we had to put in the orders for issue 7, but we're still waiting for Supreme #2. Oops, did I say it out loud? I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Still waiting for the 1963 annual, by the way.
And I don't know what Mike Deodato's talking about, Mike. When you worked on Thor and Wonder Woman in the 90s, those books were very popular.
Mike is very self-critical.
You have. I mean, it's your growth as an artist is amazing. Your stuff today is. I mean, you have grown as an artist. It's very clear. But even that early stuff had such a kinetic energy, and fans. I remember having those Thors and Wonder Womans on the shelf, and we couldn't keep them in stock. I mean, those books were as hot as you could get, and it was people, were, and that's your earliest stuff, I think.
Yeah, I remember it. It was Warren Ellis that wrote the first four issues of Thor. And it was a whole new direction for the book, and it was great. I was very excited. And the 90s, I was so impressed with Image guys, Jim Lee and Max Silvestri, and I absorbed all that energy. So I put that on my work. After the 90s, when I was working too much, and then not so popular, I tried to do something more real, and because of my my days doing all that dynamic art, I mixed it with realistic art, and then I have this style now that is photorealistic, but yet very dynamic. So it was a great time. I remember the first time I met Jim Shooter, he said, I can't stand to hear your name again because it was everywhere. So, yes.
Jim Short, like, I'm tired of hearing your name all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're my Deodato. I'm tired of hearing you.
Same thing with Ben. I will always remember his voice, never his face.
And really, you mentioned the Image guys, the early Image guys, but really Image, what it turned into has been the only bastion for, creator owned, big place for creators to go to get their stuff, seen. So you guys are,
creating a new avenue.
But it's been
an option. Yeah.
Right, well, an option, but other than Image, there's not really been a place for, strong creator titles and a good place. And the difference with you guys is you're not looking for the creators to take all the risk. You're taking the risk with them.
Yeah.
You're putting up the money, whereas Image model is a little bit more on the creator end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since there's been a strong company to work with creators on creator-owned stuff and have this kind of deal. Like Patty was saying, First Comics, or even, the Malibu stuff. There was some creator ownership in that. But I mean, you're talking, it's been 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, the hope and the expectation is that if people are let loose, they're going to do the best work.
Yeah, especially if people have a stake in it. Obviously, if Ben has a stake in something, it's gonna want this thing to succeed.
I know if Ben goes loose with that voice, it'd be something I definitely want to see.
So gentlemen, we've kept you a little bit over time. So where can so everybody can follow you guys at AWA Studios? It's awstudios.net, right?
Yeah.
At the top of the screen.
Yeah, it's awstudios.net is where you can see all the books and you can get the samples and all you guys social media is on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Down below.
Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Thanks for chatting with us and helping us get the word out of our books.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I've talked to. I have an idea. I'll talk to you about it after I've talked to Bill about it. We have to implement it. I want to be emailing first issues to our people when they sign up for our stuff.
Fantastic.
And tied in with some. I'll talk with you offline, but I think there's a way to really get more of an audience for this stuff because the biggest problem that we're having is as an industry is the. It's the older guys and gals who are comic readers are aging out, and it's all about now getting new readers. And without, with less stores each year, and without without newsstands, and it's tough to get the message out.
Yeah.
And but there is an audience for this stuff. People are looking for good content. We just have to get it in their hands.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Great.
So
it always helps, of course, when it's good content, and I think that's the important thing is that you guys are all building really good stuff. It's you're sucking in this fresh air, and when you expel it, I think if we hadn't got caught up in this pandemic thing, I think we'd be seeing most of war. So it may not be with bombast, but I think you guys are gonna on a really steady course.
All I can say is that, look, I learned a thing or two at Vertigo, and I learned even more at Marvel. So I've been around the block in this industry. One of the things I've never, ever bought into is negativity and all the naysaying about the business and the industry dying. My first week on the job at DC Comic Books, a senior editor told me, "Why the hell did you leave your job in journalism that was stable to come to work in a medium that's dying. And I said, you're full of shit. As long as people tell fun stories, whether it's Batman or something new, Stray Bullets or Batman, this is going to be around.
And people
I don't believe that.
People have been talking about the death of the comic book industry since I was a kid, and forever. And there's always the naysaying, and you've got retailers that are waiting, that have their doomsday clocks that are waiting for the end, and you have, people in power.
Also, one thing I also want to say is that a lot of retailers think that, digital is going to take away business, and it's like, I don't believe that at all. Digital is a feeder system to stores, but you can't abandon the stores. But the difference is with music, all my music is on my iPhone. I don't need an album. But I damn well need my hardcover books. There's books you have to bring home. I've got to have it on my shelf. The stuff I need is a floppy and as a hardcover. I've got books in digital and hardcover because I need them both ways. There's no way anything painted by Esad Ribic is not going to go up on my bookshelf. And I believe people like me.
Well, I definitely believe that. I don't believe the naysaying that the industry is dying, and the proof is in the bookstores. The proof is in manga. The proof is in the scholastic stuff. The proof is in there are different outlets for comic style storytelling. The young adult graphic novel stuff. The stuff Scholastic's putting out, and even My Hero Academia. Manga is a comic book. It may not look like your traditional Spider-Man, floppy, but it's a comic. So the form is still successful. It's just reaching that audience. And how
we're aware of that, and we intend to reach that audience. We have things planned for that. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the answer.
Feeder system. We need to get kids when they're young, knowing how to read comic books, caring about them, and caring about more than just seeing a Spider-Man or Batman comic book because they saw a movie. We want to get them into other stuff.
The problem is that with the Spider-Man and the Batman movies is they come out and people don't know that the comic books exist. Yeah. The biggest when we do these shows, right? And our shows are we'll call them mid-sized, and anywhere from we'll say 18,000 to 60,000 people, depending on the market, and very small percentages of those people who are going to a Comic-Con, they're coming to a Comic-Con that is built off the bones of comic books, right? Yeah. But they're not aware of the physical comic that are out there. They know about the characters. They've all seen Into the Spider-Verse. They've Walking Dead on TV. They all they've seen Walking Dead on TV. Do they know it's a comic? They've seen Into the Spider-Verse. Do they know there's a comic? Yeah. And do they even know how to read a comic? And then the kids who are reading manga, well, they don't know that there's comics out there for them that are that are not superheroes, that are not just spandex. And what's great about what you're doing is it's not just your typical here's a bunch of superheroes in spandex, onto the fire. There needs to be a mix, and the comic industry needs more diversity in content.
Yeah.
And the biggest failure of the comic book industry is that it became more insular, and the people in the comic book industry just kept, superheroes sell, let's sell more superheroes. Crime books are selling 50% of superhero books.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yes.
Right. Crime books are selling 50% of superhero books. Let's put out more superhero books and get rid of the crime books. Well, now you got rid of those crime books, and the people reading those crime books weren't reading superhero books. So now you just lost those readers. Yeah. We're doing horror books, but horror books aren't selling like superhero books. Then you end up with a wall of spandex.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just read superhero movies. Why would I want to just read superhero comic books? That's my philosophy.
Right, and I don't watch just superhero TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm watching Billions.
Books, yeah.
Right, I'm watching Billions and I'm watching Stargirl. Two very different animals. Although I'd like to see Paul Giamatti in spandex.
Well, who wouldn't?
That would be,
I only read superhero comic books that are written by Ben Percy. That's it. I'm not interested in anyone else.
and there are great superhero books that have been done and that are done. There's nothing wrong with the form.
Sure.
but it should not be. Comic books shouldn't just be just superheroes. And that was the beautiful thing about Vertigo. And my God, to dismantle it was.
Well, that's what we did Punisher Max at Marvel. Hey, how about Garth? How about you rate it as a crime book, R-rated? I'll do that. Boom.
And his Nick Fury book.
Yeah, same thing.
My God, that Nick Fury book was intense.
They're not superhero books. They're not superhero books, and they're not for kids. You know.
And that Thor book that he did, that
Vikings. Yeah,
that was an intense book. But no, I'm glad to see that you guys are pushing the envelope, that you guys are bringing different, diverse voices. There's new stories, interesting stories. I mean, Ben, you're telling a story about the seedy underworld of trucking. That's great. I mean, that's what, I'd watch that as a TV show. I'd watch it as a movie. I'd read that as a comic, right? I don't need somebody in spandex chasing down the evil trucker, to bring him to justice.
Yeah, well, don't put down US 1.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So
someday I'll get a chance to pitch that revamp, but that's another.
All the success in the world, and look, if the thing about the naysaying is, these guys who naysay, they're cutting off their own potential success.
Yeah.
Right.
A rising tide raises all ships, right? So you should want everything to succeed, because the more things succeed, the better it is for everyone.
And the broader your audience, yeah.
So no, but you guys are coming out.
Thanks a lot for having us on. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
More people in the future. All right.
We'll do this again, and see you backstage. Everyone, good night. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Not everyone. Take care.